Welcome to the Wake and Bake podcast.
Good morning.
Me and Pete are going to start rocking our NFL gear, so it makes it a little more football fan friendly.
Get in the spirit.
That's right. We got the draft coming up in like a week. We'll be watching the number one pick for our various teams here. So today we wanted to talk about team visits. There's a team visit tracker here on CBS. Woo. Let me look here. Chargers have not had a bunch of people in for visits.
That's interesting.
A lot of these lists, a lot of these team lists are pretty deep, Pete.
Yeah.
And Chargers is not.
Huh.
I wonder if they're even going to have all 30.
I mean, a lot of teams don't get all 30 done. That's not
Yeah, that's crazy.
out of the ordinary.
Did I not set the timer for the croissant rolls very well?
No. I went over there and it was like 360.
Yeah. They've got a good brown to them, that's for sure. They're not burned, but thank you for saving them.
Yeah. I mean, for the Patriots, they did like the top 10 guys. And then, you know, a few other defensive tackles that they liked and a few other ends and a few other offensive tackles. You know, they did Campbell, Membo, Simmons. But yeah, I feel like it's probably harder for the Chargers being at 22. Because you can't just do the top 15 guys. That's a waste. But if you think one of those guys falls to 22, then you want to have met them.
Well, I was telling...
But you can't show your hand like, we're going to trade up to 10 because we're going to bring in these two guys.
I've been telling people that I watched an interview by Bill Belichick, I forget where. I think maybe it was on Pat McAfee. They were asking him about those visits. And Bill was saying, if you're really high on a particular person, it can be a combination because you could be really high on a prospect. So here's the given. If you think you've collected all the information you think you need to, and you're like, this guy's a certifiable stud, we know what he is. Like, you're not bringing him in for a visit.
Yeah.
Unless, I mean, I would say the only circumstance outside of that is if maybe you're like in the top of the draft and everybody knows you're probably going to take this guy. So you bring him in anyway just to get to know him better.
Right.
But, I mean, most of the time, you're bringing in these people that you want to collect more information on, for good or for bad. So the Chargers hosted Titaroa McMillan, who's the top wideout in the draft. And a lot of Charger fans are like, "Ooh, look, they like Titaroa. They want T-Mac." But
Yeah.
I think the Chargers, there are some character concerns when it comes to McMillan. Supposedly, he doesn't like to watch film. He made a comment about like never watching film. And he said it in a way that's like I'm too good to watch film,
Yeah.
kind of.
He also, I feel like he said it in a way that could be misconstrued
Maybe.
when taken out of context.
I mean, he said he watches film. He only watches film like when he's at practice,
Yeah.
like in the wide receivers room. Not that he never watches film,
Yeah.
but he's not doing the extra homework.
Yeah. He's only watching the wide receiver film. He's not watching the cornerback film too.
You know. So the Chargers hosted an outside linebacker from Boise. They hosted the center Jacob Bayer from Arkansas State. They hosted the linebacker Schweisinger from UCLA, who I think is a high. That guy's pretty high up on the draft board. I think he's one of the top linebackers in the draft.
Yeah.
If not the top, I think maybe. One of them. They brought in Mason Taylor, the tight end. Four linebackers. Four of them. One outside. For some reason, McMillan's not on this list, though.
Huh.
Dude, the Raiders brought everyone in. They brought in the Texas quarterback, Ewers. They brought in Ewers. They brought in Cam Ward. They brought in Dart. They brought in Garbers. They brought in Shadur. Dude, they brought in Milrow. They brought in all the QBs.
The Raiders did?
Yes. You're telling me they're not interested in a QB? Come on. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Nobody's buying that smoke.
I mean, I'm sure
You don't bring in like every QB in the draft, pretty much, Pete.
Right. They're taking a QB, but it's also like, can we get one of those guys at the top of the second, and we don't have to take them with the sixth pick? You know, if they're bringing in everybody, and they're seeing, is there a big difference between Dart and Shador, and we can get Dart at pick 40, you know, or whatever their second round pick is, 38.
I mean, if you're gonna pass, if you've got the number 6 overall and you're gonna pass on a QB, like, you better know. It's the same thing the Chargers are doing with McMillan. If McMillan falls, and this is the top wideout in the draft, like, and you're going to pass on that guy, you better know why.
Right.
That guy goes on to have like a Jefferson season, like owning the NFL, or he's the new Mike Evans, you know?
Yeah.
Actually, his pro comp is very Mike Evans, actually.
I mean, there's no, you know,
Because
everyone likes to say there's no way something happens, but I feel like
think
it's
I looked
very
up-
unlikely that Tet McMillan makes it to the 20s.
I think I looked up Mike Evans' 40 time. That was the thing about Mike Evans, was his 40 time wasn't great.
Oh, yeah.
But he had the very similar profile. Fantastic hands and body control. And like produced.
And on the bigger side.
Big guy, fantastic hands and body control. And I mean, I have nightmares about Mike Evans. I'm sorry.
Ugh.
The way the Bucs handled the Chargers last season. And actually, I mean, yeah, first we saw Mike Evans do it. Like, we did not have an answer for Mike Evans. That guy completely owned our secondary. Like, we didn't have a guy in the secondary that could cover that guy or stop that guy.
Yeah.
He was just too big.
I mean, I watched a Buccaneers game last year that Tom Brady commentated when in his rookie commentator career. And he was like, just throw it to Mike Evans every time.
Yeah.
They're not, like,
No, he was
he
right.
has a chance. Like,
He was right.
it kind of doesn't matter who's covering him.
I just throw it to Mike Evans.
I would
dude.
give him a chance.
Yeah, Evans. Baker Mayfield knows it too.
Yeah. So
Baker Mayfield knows that too. Definitely knows that. So McMillan's like that. Could be that. That's what he did in college. He did his best Mike Evans impersonation in college.
yeah.
Like, because what the team that he was on? So one of the things on his story is he could have gone to bigger colleges, but he said no. I want to be here. I'm going to elevate this program. And then he did.
It's commendable.
Yeah. That is pretty cool. He wasn't all about just selling out to the biggest college possible.
Tried turning the sound off on that timer while I set it so it didn't make a crazy amount of beeps. And then when you turn the sound back on when it's set, it resets itself, so I couldn't do it.
Yeah. So yeah, the Raiders brought in like every QB. Milrow, Cam Miller. Texans were hella busy. Detroit brought in Gray Zabel. You stay away from Gray Zabel, okay?
A lot of I've seen a lot of mocks with Zabel going in the top 20,
Yeah.
which is crazy for an interior O lineman to go in the top 20.
I mean, part of it is just his flexibility. Like, the feeling seems to be that, like, this guy you can draft him and just plug him in anywhere. He's just gonna kick ass. Which is pretty awesome. Broncos brought in Gunnar Helm. Some running backs, wideouts, tight ends. They brought in a few tight ends. They brought in Ferguson, Fannin, and Gunnar Helm. But they didn't bring in Macer Taylor, which is interesting. They kind of brought in that's the tranche of talent below Mason Taylor and
Warren.
Well, you've got Warren Loveland, and then underneath them you've got Mason Taylor's kind of the consensus number 3.
Okay. And then it's the next tier after that.
Yeah, he's the next tier.
Who they're bringing in.
Like, the Chargers have not brought in Loveland.
They're like, we just know, we're just going to take him. We don't care what kind of person he is.
The Rams have only hosted like 4 people. All right, the Patriots. Want me to go over the Patriots list here?
Sure.
Dylan Sampson,
Running back.
running back from Tennessee. Got yourself a tackle out of Minnesota.
Ursurly.
Linebacker Nick Martin. You guys brought in Will Campbell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got to get. See, that tells me. See, he's kind of. The expectation is for them. I mean, we think the Patriots will take Will Campbell. There's a good chance they could stick and pick and just take that guy.
Right. I mean, recently they brought in Abdul Carter in case he falls to them. They met with him too.
Wide out. They brought in another running back, Merritt from Arizona. Shemar Turner, Abdul Carter, Farmer, Mason Graham.
I mean, for them, they took it, they brought in, it's like 4 or 5 of the top 10 players. So they know, so they will have met whoever they end up with at 4. And then like, It's all those second tier and third tier linebackers and tackles in case they need to take one of those guys later.
The thing about Mason Graham, too, in my opinion, is like, yes, he's the consensus pretty much kind of number one defensive tackle. But I mean, how much better is he compared to like Nolan or Harmon or Kenneth Grant, this like second tier underneath him?
Right.
And it's not like big to me. It's not top 5. Like these other guys are going like 20 to 30.
Right. But if you're pick 7, then you don't have another pick until 39.
Yeah, you just have to take
like
them.
if you want a defensive tackle, you have to take them there because they're not going to still be there on your team, you know? Which is why, you know, for those teams who have top 10 picks were the worst team. Usually the worst teams in the league last year, you know, unless there was a trade. So for those teams, they lack so much talent usually across the board, multiple positions. They have great needs at, and you have to take a guy who is going to help your team next year, but is also, you have to hit that pick. You can't miss on that pick, regardless of what position they play.
Well, I think risk becomes a large part of the equation for sure. You know what's interesting? The Saints here. The Saints brought in Ewers, but they haven't brought in a bunch of quarterbacks, really. They've only brought in one. They only brought in one quarterback.
That is kind of weird. Because, I mean, they've known that Carr was injured the whole time. It just came out to the press that it was worse.
I was watching,
but the team knew like how bad it was.
That's what I was watching. Rich Eisen, Mayock was saying. Mayock was like, "This is not new
for
to the Saints. The Saints knew he had a shoulder issue,
and he's old. That it's not gonna just.
They knew about this back when they went and got him from the Raiders." Giants, Sanders, Ward, Milrow. They didn't bring in everybody, just Sanders, Ward, and Milrow.
Oh, as far as QBs, but they did. They're bringing Sanders back in for a private workout, not the they already did the 30 visit. This week he's coming back in for just a private workout with the Giants, so that's interesting. Because you would think if they were if they wanted him a month ago, they would still want him, and at number 3, they're not. If they want him, they can have him, kind of thing. It's almost like they passed on him before. And maybe the owner is like, you better take another look at that guy, because if we pass on another quarterback that ends up good,
yeah, I mean it's
Everybody's out.
it's definitely one of those things like
because last
you
year
better.
they took Neighbors last year, who's a great receiver, but they passed on Nix, Penix, who are all going to be good starting quarterbacks, it looks like.
Yeah, they blew it. They blew it. And then Daniel Jones didn't even last the year.
And then Daniel Jones is out now, so
Didn't even last the year. Wow. Like you took this Neighbors weapon. You had a top 4. Was it? Yeah, it was like top 3 or 4 last season, right?
I don't remember where.
And there were so many quarterbacks. Like with Nix,
it wasn't top 3 because those were the 3 quarterbacks. But
they could have taken Nix or Penix.
They could have taken Nix or Penix.
And you don't think they would gift their left nut for Bo Nix right now? You know?
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's like
after the season Bo Nix had,
if Nick, both of those guys look like they're going to have promising careers. And they both had good rookie seasons. Obviously, Nick's more so than Penix. He played more, but
I mean, I think Penix went out. He didn't suck, He went out there and he.
In the games that he played, he looked okay too.
Yeah, he looked okay. But Bo Nix, I mean, just like he got the whole season.
I mean, at this, by
the end of the season, Bo Nix was a gamer.
But this season or next season, he's going to be pushing Herbert for the second best quarterback in that division. I know it hurts you to hear that, but
no, I agree.
But, that's the trajectory that Bo Nix is on right now.
Oh, I agree. He'll be pushing. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, if the Giants don't take a quarterback, they're gonna have to answer some questions as to why. And it can't just be because we signed some veterans.
I mean, how do you you get it God, the whole Daniel Jones thing, that was, boy, they blew it.
Yeah.
Really in every way possible.
Right.
They signed him a huge contract, they
drafted him,
anointed him the guy. And then they kind of railroaded him last season. It is brutal. It was brutal to watch. Ewers got brought in by the Jets. Tyler Slew.
It's almost like all these quarterback needy teams all have top 10 picks, and yet they're all interviewing the second and third tier quarterbacks like they're planning on using a second round pick on them.
Steelers brought in Ewers,
but they don't want to take them in the top 10.
Steelers brought in Ewers and Dart. Ewers, the Steelers had every running back in there. They brought in every running back they could, dude.
Well, they did lose Najee Harris to the Chargers, so.
And yeah, they pretty much brought in all the quarterbacks except for Ward. Although it doesn't look like they brought in Milroe. That's interesting to me.
That is interesting.
They brought in Shador. Steelers brought in Shador. Tyler McCord, Tyler Slow. Kyle McCord, like whoever the hell that is. Jackson Dart. They brought in Ewers. Yeah. The Raiders brought in the most quarterbacks.
And yet, they're going to take a running back, 6th overall.
Well, they tried to flood the zone too, man. They used all 30 of their visits. So they brought in a whole bunch of everyone. But yeah, in the mix there was every single quarterback.
Which, you know, that's public information of who goes on a 30 visit. So maybe they're kind of trying to run some interference, make people believe, even though everybody knows that they need a quarterback.
Human Worry ain't gonna make it out of the first round. The Seahawks brought in Milrow and the Tyler Slew guy.
Slew.
Cardinals didn't bring in any quarterbacks. Falcons didn't bring in any quarterbacks. Ravens didn't bring in any quarterbacks. Buffalo didn't bring in any quarterbacks. Ooh, let's look at the Panthers here. Panthers did not bring in any quarterbacks.
That's kind of crazy.
So maybe I mean, that definitely tells me that the Panthers are probably not going to be bringing in competition for Bryce Young.
Yeah.
They're rolling with Bryce Young and the Red Rifle.
And they're saying you get one more year, Bryce, unchallenged.
Yeah. And you got Dalton.
Yeah, I mean, he's just going to be the backup again, the veteran backup.
Solid backup.
I'm sure they're not in like a starting competition. It's, you know.
No. Yeah.
They probably feel like if they brought in starting competition, it would ruin Bryce Young.
So
I want to give him one more.
I'll revise my.
You're thinking that they're in need of
that they might bring in a QB. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're not going to bring in a QB. But again, the Raiders are the ones everybody should be worried about.
Right.
They brought in every single quarterback. And they're talking up Genty like they're going to take him, but it's all smokescreen, dude. You don't bring in that many quarterbacks if you're not interested in a quarterback, okay?
Right.
At number 6. Or period. Like, you are very interested in a quarterback if you did that.
And we all know that you're interested in a quarterback because your current starting quarterback is
an Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
He's basically Andy Dalton. That's what Geno is.
Yeah. He can run a little bit better.
He's a younger Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
in a no commodity. So, I mean, that's the best thing that helps the Patriots here is because we were talking about this. Like, the team you got to move in front of is the fucking Raiders.
Yeah. If you want the number 2 quarterback after Ward.
If you want the next best quarterback in this draft, whoever you think he is, Milroe, Shador, or Dart,
Right.
like, you got to move in front of the Raiders. You have to. Not the Panthers. The Panthers, of course, at number 9. I mean, if you're willing to take the Raiders leftovers,
Yeah.
or hope that they just don't draft one.
I mean, they're probably bringing in everybody to see if they can get one in the second round. But like, you know, last year they didn't think that 5 were going to go in the first 15, and they did. So like, who's to say that's not going to happen again?
Yeah. Bengals didn't bring in a quarterback. The Browns. Oh yeah, they brought in. The Browns brought in all the quarterbacks. All of them. Top 5. Cowboys brought in Ewers. That's kind of interesting. That was their only QB visit.
I mean, that might be because it's a free for them, because he goes to school there. So it's something like if you're within X number of miles, it doesn't count as one of your visits.
Oh, really?
You just bring them in.
Oh,
I think.
interesting.
And Dallas has so many because there's so many big football schools in Texas. It's something like within 50 miles or within 100 miles.
The Broncos are very clearly interested in running backs and tight ends. More
Right.
running backs, but they do have.
I know
They-
that
They brought in some tight ends.
the Patriots get a free visit from UConn, even though they're outside of the radius. But because there's so few football schools in Boston, that like they get an extended radius.
Really?
But then Dallas does not get that luxury because they already have plenty.
Yeah, Chargers brought in McMillan and Golden. We're basically the consensus top 2 wideouts.
They are. They're also both like projected to go in the top 20. Like, there's a lot of people who want the Patriots to trade up back into the first round to get Golden, and a lot of people push back and say that
Get
he's
Golden?
that he'll be gone. So like he'll be gone at like 16. So in order to move up that far, it would cost way
so
too much. So
Oh, you know what? So I was playing around with that on the mock drafter yesterday. If the Chargers move down 5 spots, they could get an extra second. They could get an extra second. if they threw in like a 6th round, they have 4 6th-round picks because of compensatory picks.
Getting a second this year or next year?
This year.
You think somebody would give him a second?
If you move back 5
spots?
You can get a 2nd round, yeah. 5 spots in the 1st round will earn you an extra 2nd round pick. Middle of the 2nd round, for 100% early 3rd round. You can just get that this year. Maybe something a little more too, if you got the 3rd. That's what you can get moving back 5 spots in the 1st round. Which I'm kind of, like, if we don't get Loveland, I'm kind of a fan of that move.
Right. I mean, this is a great draft for teams who already have a quarterback because it's such a weak quarterback class. But it's like a real blue collar class in that you can get a lot of starters who are gonna be starters in the 3rd or 4th round at a lot of different positions. Just not the flashy positions of quarterback. Like I haven't heard any of Bill Belichick's draft talk, if he's put any out yet, but he probably would love this draft class.
So I'm looking at this list. There's not really a good like visits tracker. There was that CBS list, but I think it's incomplete. Because I didn't think Loveland visited the Chargers, but this list says he did.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought maybe you were saying somebody was missing off one that you knew did it, but and I would say
Walter Football.
It's just because it's always changing. Like they're still bringing people in right now.
Oh, these are like. It's not in-house visit. It's just meetings. I mean, I think the Saints are definitely probably playing that game like, yeah, they don't want to show who they're really interested in.
Right.
That's why they were kind of low on visits.
And they would love to not have to trade up.
A lot of teams hosted Ewers. I was really surprised how many visits Ewers had. I mean, I was talking about him the other day. Like, nobody's really talking about that guy sneaking into the first round.
And then
I would add him to that list of people, QBs, Dart, Milrow, and Ewers.
to be the 5 QBs in the first round.
I mean, Shador and Cam are obviously going,
Yeah.
but there's that second tranche, the 3,
Right.
the next tier.
That nobody thinks is a first round pick.
Yeah, I think Ewers could sneak into the first round. With the amount of visits he had, everybody was kicking the tires on that guy. I mean, even the Cowboys.
Yeah. And the Cowboys have Dak and just traded for the Patriots backup.
Steelers are definitely drafting a running back. And the guys they brought in, I mean, they're first rounders.
Yeah, I mean,
I would just be shocked if they don't take a quarterback. Like, there's just no way.
at that point, it's just like the Raiders. Like, are you really going to take a running back in the first round when you need a quarterback too?
So the Raiders have 2 picks in the first round, by the way. They've got the number 6, and then they have a number 27 somehow.
Do they? I thought everybody only had 1. I thought there wasn't any trades. It's like the first year ever, or in a really long time that that's been the case, that there weren't
How
any.
many? What are the Raiders' picks in the 2025 NFL Draft? Huh, no, never mind. I stand corrected.
You probably just saw somebody's mock that had like a trade up
Right?
where they traded back in, but I don't think anyone has right now. There hasn't been any trades, and if it stands that way, that's why everybody's like, there's no way we're going to go through a whole draft with nobody trading a first round pick. So like, something has to happen either in this last week before the draft or on draft day. No one believes that it'll stay that way.
Jets did not bring in a bunch of QBs. kind of shocking to me. I mean, I suppose there's a chance that the Jets are just like, look, we're going to give Fields a fair shot all season. We're just going to roll Fields.
I mean, they have to.
And next year, if it's horrible, like, we're going to get a high pick on a great QB, and if it's good, then it's good.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they're like, none of these QBs stand out as the guy.
Yeah, why force it?
So they forced it, you know, they have, over the last 10 years, they have a handful of top 5
They've tried to
QBs,
force it.
and none of them worked out.
They've tried to force it. Let's just roll with a proven commodity who's gotten lots of reps, who's still young. Sure, he could pull a Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Fields could do. I mean, that's what's kind of crazy is like Fields won all those games for the Steelers, and then he lost his job to Russ. But the guy was a winner.
Yeah.
Usually if you're a winner in the NFL, like, you don't lose your job. You know?
Right.
I mean, the Jets' mindset might just be like, I don't know what their O-line is, but I feel like they could probably use help on the O-line.
They could. Their O-line is going to be pretty bad without.
So they might just be doing the
infusion of youth.
They might just do the prudent thing, which is like, okay, we brought in Fields, we're going to ride Fields. Like, we're not going to put him in this stressful situation.
Yeah.
He's just the guy. Maybe he shows something, and then we'll beef up our O-line to help that out. Because either way, you got to do that. You could get the greatest QB ever, but if your O-line is trash, you're never going to know what you have, ever.
I mean,
hence the Patriots and Drake May.
Both Drake May and Williams last year in Chicago saw that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you can't.
Yeah, I mean, they need help on their O-line. They need help. Their defensive line is not as good as it was 3 years ago either. So
I mean, for all the X's and O's brilliance that Ben Johnson gets, all the credit he gets for being a brilliant offensive coordinator, look at the first thing they did when he got there. All right, we're overhauling this O-line. By all means, we're spending money on it. We're getting free agents, and I don't expect that to stop, because look at the line he had with the Lions. Like, he knows it starts with the line.
They had an amazing O-line. They also, the Lions are really good right now because they hit on their drafts. Like 3 years in a row, they had second, third, and fourth round guys starting. Like every year.
They did well in their drafts. But I feel like they spent a few years building those trenches, especially the O-line.
Right. Well, it can never get overhauled in 1 year. It takes time.
Yeah. But as soon as Campbell got there, like, I think they already had a piece or two on the O-line. They were just like, no, O-line, O-line, O-line.
Yeah.
Like, free agency, mostly draft, because they drafted Penei Sewell or whatever.
Yeah.
But
I think they drafted their center too.
But they know that starts with the O-line. You can literally just throw your playbook out the window if your O-line is trash. Just take your playbook, throw it in the trash, because none of it's going to work, okay? Like, it can be the greatest plan ever. It's just not going to work because your O-line gets dominated. The play gets blown up. It's over.
Right.
Brett Kollman did a great thing for the Chargers picking up Mekhi Becton. Like Mekhi Becton, they released it yesterday. Brett Kollman's the dude from Bootleg Football, which I love. If you don't subscribe to Bootleg Football, do it, because they're the best. But Brett... Brett did this really fantastic breakdown of Mekhi Becton and how, if I'm recalling this correctly, the Eagles, running to the right, running to his side was the side that they like to run to the most. Mm-hmm. And essentially, dude, it was something like the success rate was almost perfect.
He's a huge friggin' guy.
Like, it was their dominant side, which defenses are going to know, like, okay, they like to run it to this side the most. And despite that, even knowing that, defenses weren't able to stop them running to that side. And it was because Becton was just that guy's just... He moves out, that right side would move out on the line. Like they showed a play, and it's just like the gap for the running back for Saquon was just like, he makes this point that like Saquon wasn't getting touched on the right side 3 yards deep.
Yeah.
Like into plus territory. Like he's not even being touched by a defender. Like, so it's going to work really well. You know?
That is.
Like, he's not even being touched.
That is the definition of
for
good
like 3 to 5 yards.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the defense does. Because these O-line. And so he was talking about, like, how trench dominate, you know. Like, football is a game of the biggest guy wins. And the Chargers now have the biggest guys. Like, they've got Becton and Alt. There's 700 pounds
standing next to each other
of draft, number 1 draft, you know, top shelf, first round draft capital standing there.
Because Becton's going to play right guard, right?
Yeah, Becton plays right guard, which is next to Alt. Yeah. Becton's bigger than Alt. He weighs more. I think he's a smidge shorter, but he's got about 40 pounds on Alt.
Damn.
But Alt's 320 something? Like, he's not very heavy set. He's just a massive human. Like, he's an athletic, massive human.
Yeah. Which is what NFL linemen on both sides
Becton is like,
are.
Becton is just a massive human with a belly. Like, he's got a belly on him. He's just a massive human being.
Yeah.
Which it wouldn't shock me if they try to get him to trim up. If Ben Herbert, the strength and conditioning coach, is like, nah, we're going to get you more athletic, dude. Because he's got a knee thing. And they're probably going to want to take some weight off those knees.
Yeah. Well, plus in their running game, I mean, They probably pull a lot of guards. They want to run so much. I don't know if they're running a gap or if they're running zone.
The Chargers run, I think they run a mix, dude, but it's gap heavy.
So there you go. They got to have a lot of pulling guards.
Yeah, they get crazy. Like Roman, like they're pulling and they do crazy stuff. That's kind of Roman's like forte, is dialing up stuff like that. Like he wants O linemen, just they're gonna
Going everywhere.
going everywhere. Defenses are like, what's going on here? All right, guys, I think that's the episode. Thanks for tuning in. As always, like, subscribe. Tune in. Listen to us bullshit about football. You got it.
See you next time.
See you next time. Bye-bye.